let's start off with talking about who is Blackthornes Apothecary.
Oh, that's a deep question. Um, well, I know like the progenitor just of the name itself. Uh, Me and my friend were we were playing we were got invited to like a home game,
Mhm.
brand new home, like homebrew worlds. And the DM, which is like he had made like this really cool Google Docs with just all of the gods, continents, kingdoms, whole nine yards. It was like, here's all the information you'll need for character building and what have you. And going through, I thought it was really cool. And I was like, I want to build a character that lives, breathes, exists in this world. So I was like going through it, and he had, I don't remember the name of the god he created, but it's essentially like a god of like justice or what have you. But the god itself, very black and white,
Okay.
right or wrong, good or evil. That's it. There is no gray area.
Mhm.
And like this god hates all magic except for like divination and abjuration magic. And I had like at the time, I think it was like, and was kind of like grappling with just lack of religious views
Okay.
and just that whole thing. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to be a wizard that hates the gods. He hates the gods, or a god in particular. He wants to kill this god. So I had wrote this very detailed backstory of this of Magnus Blackthorne, that is the son of Tiberius Blackthorne and Beatrix Blackthorne. Tiberius was the backstory I kind of gave his parents was he's through and through knight, sword and shield. That's what he does. His mom is a wizard. They all hail from like a continent where because I typically only ever play like black coded characters for the, like if they're human. And so the DM had this continent is like, yeah, this is he's like, think of it, this is kind of like Africa.
Okay.
This is the continent, this is kind of where like darker skinned people come from, and gave me all this great lore about that. So like the idea that this is kind of where his parents come from. His dad is this sword and board knight. His mom is just a mage, and they meet. He starts to like feel like, oh, magic is actually kind of cool. My family has generations have just been soldiers and mercenaries and whatnot. So this is where I kind of like had him go. He became an eldritch knight because this woman he like started teaching the magic. It's not a lot. He's not smart enough to become a mage, but he's just smart enough to pick up some things. And dad is sent on like an impossible quest by this crazy king of the kingdom they moved to, just disappears. So now Magnus is raised by single mother, which I'm realizing now is kind of just mirroring my own goddamn life.
Hey, that's okay. I do the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So like Magnus
Or I
raised by
make
the same.
duplicates of Wolverine because I like that loner like thing. I've realized that doesn't work well with D&D to make loners. So I've strayed away from it a little
Yeah.
bit, but I do
Mm-hmm,
like to be
mm-hmm.
that guy who's a little bit combative with the party at times.
Oh, same. I'm doing that now. But yeah, so like Magnus is raised by a single mother, and she is pretty much just like, there's a thing I wanted to do. I wanted to create the most comprehensive spell book possible. Just gonna go travel around and just collect as many spells as possible, just to compile them in this. I believe I called it like the Grimoire Infinitus, just a complete grimoire, all the spells, and then also like document magical creatures and whatnot. And it just essentially, we're gonna travel around and we're gonna do cool things.
Okay.
And like the defining moment was they're staying in like a tavern, and a group of bandits showed up, and the lead, like the head of the bandit captain, necromancer. So most of his bandits are just undead that he's just brought back. Magnus's mom, because she's a good person, was like, I'm going to stop them. I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to save everyone in this inn. And she kicked ass because she is a really good wizard. Problem is, she uses all kinds of magics. And one of the guests in the inn was like, "Thank you for saving us, but you use magic that this god doesn't like, so I'm gonna tell on you." And like he tells clerics and paladins of this very black and white god show up and are like, "You're evil. We're gonna stop you now." And like Magnus is trying to like run between his mom and this group, and she just kind of like turns to him and just like, "You have to stay safe." Teleports him back to their home as she's getting like divine smited, and then that just kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to murder this god. I'm going to use their teaching, become an abjuration wizard, and I'm going to find a way to murder this god. And so that was the character. The campaign kind of imploded because like pandemic really started kicking off and like people's schedules kind of shifted up.
Yep.
But I was like still that was the first time I had ever made a D&D character that was built to exist in the world using the lore of the world itself. That was built by the DM, incorporating all that into my backstory because I wanted it to be like a real person. And then I was like, "Oh, I need to make. I want to go on TikTok and do the D&D TikTok videos. Also, I want to use TikTok to find more people to play with."
You sound like me.
Now it's like, what's the name gonna be? I was thinking of stuff. And like, oh well, I do have Magnus Blackthorne. What would he be doing if he like succeeded? And I was like, oh, he would probably pull a Thanos. I've done what I needed to do. I'm just gonna chill in a garden now and open an apothecary.
That's awesome. That's a very interesting story of how you got your username. So when I started YouTube, so back in 2011ish, I had gallbladder surgery, and well, I should even go back to 2010. 2010 when I started playing D&D. I had played RPGs back in 97. I had never played D&D from 1997 till 2010, so 13 years. I had played Rifts and Heroes Unlimited and all that good stuff that I liked. I had even dabbled with some Marvel role-playing games in that time. And yeah, like I wasn't into the Marvel ones as much, even though I love Marvel IPs. And that was, I think, 2009. It was the Margaret Weiss edition Dice Pool one. And I saw the book at Vault of Midnight in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And they have 3 locations now. They're pretty cool. But remember being there, and I saw that they had a Heroes Unlimited book that was so old. It was literally from the 80s, and it was dusty because it was on the bottom shelf. And I remember being surprised they had it, that it was that old. Like, so I had Heroes Unlimited though already. I had the new version that had come out in the late 90s, the revised edition, and all that. Anyway, but I saw this Marvel, I think it was like Marvel role-playing game by Margaret Weiss. And I was like, oh, this looks cool. And I was looking at it and I was like, oh, it's got pre-gens in the back. Oh, that's cool. I was like, I'll get it home and I'll start making characters. I got it home and I was like, there's nothing about creating characters. It's like, here's the rules of the game. Here's different scenarios. And then here's characters you can play as.
Like, but I want to make my own.
Yeah, and like it kind of, I think it said you can, but it didn't really guide you through making your own character. I could be misremembering this because I got rid of the book after like 2 years. I couldn't grasp it because it wasn't what I was used to. I was used to D20 games and things like that. Anything that didn't kind of fit what my view of what an RPG game mechanically was hard for me to grasp at this time. So, and actually I hadn't even played D&D yet. So then, 2010, met my wife. We had no idea when we were dating that either of us played role-playing games. None. Zero, zilch, never came up, nothing. Now, to be fair, we only dated 4 months before we moved in together. So when we moved in together, I had brought my RPG books. And I didn't have a lot. I had maybe 8 to 10. And I said, hey, I've got some books. Do you mind if I put them on your bookshelf? Because I didn't bring my bookshelf. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. You can put them on the top shelf. It was a two-level shelf. I was like, okay, cool. And when I was over there, I saw her 3rd edition, not 3.5, 3rd edition D&D books. I also saw some raggedy AD&D books. And only like 3 or 4 of those. And I was like, do you play D&D? And she's like, oh, I used to. And I was like, and so I held up my books thinking she was going to know what the, sorry, I'm swearing, knowing what they were. I'm going to have to whistle those out or something. And so I'm holding this superhero book and she's like, what's that? I'm like, this is a role-playing game for superheroes. And I was like, and this right here is like riffs and like, it's like D&D, but modern and cool. Because I had never played D&D. I didn't realize that may have been the wrong thing. She didn't pick up on it. But I put my stuff on the shelf and we decided that night, we started talking about, hey, we should get some people to play D&D. And she'll run D&D and I'll run my superhero games and we'll just do this. It'll be fun. Couldn't think of anybody, so we invited my sister who had never played an RPG game before. However, she did on MySpace, where she met her husband, who lived in England at the time. He was in America at this point.
Okay.
But they met through a Buffy the Vampire Slayer role-playing MySpace page. Like, you'd go into the blog post on the MySpace page and role-play between posts. So it was basically role-playing games. Without dice.
What? I
Don't
didn't
ask
know
me.
That was an outside. I didn't know that was a thing that existed.
Dude, my sister used to do that with other stuff too. Like I think Charmed and some other stuff. But she did these like, it's basically role playing. It's role playing on like message forums. So at this time I also, and most of all my DMing at this point had been in chat rooms on like Instant Messenger, or Palladium Books had their own chat. And so I would sometimes go in, you could pick a room that didn't have people, set up your room in the general chat and bring them over there. And then you DM your games whenever. So all of my DMing experience at this point was more narrative. It was more, hey, I could write a story and then just plug players in and let them kind of screw around within my story. Because the way it was a little slower, and it was easy to kind of do. So I had never DM'd in person. I had only played a handful of times in person with people at that point because I could never find people. Like in high school, I had friends who played D&D. I wanted to play with them. I did like my psychology projects with them and was good friends with all of them. But they had a group that was like 12 people. It was like...
Oh, that's so many.
I know. And they played on an air hockey table and it was 3.5. So you had grid play. So they were smothered around an air hockey table playing. I was never invited to play. But they would tell me about it. And the thing is so you had 3 people who were friends. And then 2 of them had brothers. And I think the 3 friends had girlfriends. And the 1 brother had a girlfriend. So like it ended up being 12 people somehow. I don't remember exactly how, but it was 12 people. And they played all the time. And I never got to play. But I always got to hear how awesome it was. And then I was like, well, do any of you want to come play my games that I play? And they'd be like, no. I'd be like, oh.
No.
So, I was even I was not an outcast in high school, but I was definitely the outcast of the outcast when it came to D&D. It was very weird. I hated it. So I didn't get that experience that I always wanted. So anyways, started playing D&D with my wife, my sister, and my sister's husband. And then I was DMing the Heroes game. Now, me DMing the Heroes game, I was like, it's going to be like the chat room. So I made like this crazy idea of what was going to happen. And I was like, okay, since they're new, I'm going to give them an NPC mechanic who's going to like build them gadgets if they want. But he's not going to just do it. They kind of got to role play with him and then talk it out. And maybe they can get stuff made and it'll take time. And I'll work with them because, I want player agency. So had a mechanic. He had this really fancy garage under a mansion on the hill, and he was all for the cause, First session, I started him off in a restaurant downtown, and I'm like, oh yeah, like on the news, there's like police, all this stuff, and basically it bombed. They did not take any of my hooks, none of them.
Classic D&D fashion,
dude. I had police go speeding by, chasing a car out of this restaurant. And they're just like, oh, okay, I'll just sit there and sip my coffee. I'm like, what?
I can imagine the Avengers. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So as I was saying.
Yeah. I had no idea what to do in the moment. I was like, I've given them the hooks. I don't know what to do. And I felt like a deer in headlights. Apparently my hooks weren't strong enough or something. I don't know. I guess my wife finally was like, okay, I'll go with it. And she tried to like go with it. She thought it was weird though, because she had never played like a modern setting. She had done outer space stuff. It was always more linear, or it was very much like D&D, where it's like, you're in a tavern. Hey, we have this fetch quest for you. Go there. And it's not necessarily time sensitive or anything. And then they can prepare and then go. That's kind of how her things were, it sounds like. So she didn't know what to do in the situation, because she's like, well, the police are handling it. That was her logic.
Like,
the police are handling that.
Never watched a cartoon before. The police can never handle it.
So the first session sucked. They eventually did the stuff, and I made like what I call Hollywood moments, because I got a cool idea from YouTube or somewhere, a blog post. It was like, Hollywood moments, that's cool. And like it kept referencing Lord of the Rings and Legolas doing cool stuff. And I was like, yes. And I love stuff like that. And so then from then on, I was like, I got every session I aimed for doing something epic. Well, so they did the epic thing and it was cool. And then they got to the investigation part. But so what happened is there was a biker club that had people murdered at it. I think it was this session. I'm pretty sure it was. There were people murdered at it. Like the whole biker gang. And so they ended up finding out this happened like right around the corner from where they were. And so like the police have it roped off. And because again, I wanted to make it a little bit difficult. I didn't want to just be like, yeah, the police are going to tell you everything. Like, that's not going to work like that. So my wife's character could shape change, like Mystique. And she had some other cool powers. So she shape changed to a police officer and went in and got information and investigated and heard some stuff and found out it was like a robotic guy who basically went in like the Terminator, but like ripped their arms off their body. And like, you know, because he's like super strong, and basically regular baseball bats and crowbars don't hurt him in bar stools.
No.
So he just ripped them apart, basically, took the money out of their safe, took the drugs they had, and left. And then ran from the police, right? They never caught him. You know, that wasn't anything that happened. My sister's husband was a guy who could like turn into metal, but based on like kind of like Colossus a little bit, but based on the rules of the game, when you turn to metal, you also weigh like 1,000 pounds. Like
that makes sense.
Yeah, like there's a lot of logic to it. I can't remember my wife's character. I think my sister's character. Because we did 2 different campaigns where they made different characters. I think in this one I don't remember what she was. Oh, she was a news reporter and like a teen kid. I think she could turn into like a Raggedy Ann type doll. And when she would, certain things like piercing things and stuff wouldn't hurt her.
I mean, it's a cool power, but it's also very creepy.
Oh, yeah. And it was alter physical self. So you could change to and from it. And so when she would change to it, though, she's invulnerable to like everything except for like fire and anything that stops her from breathing. You know, so it's kind of cool. And she can hide things inside of her because, you know, she's basically a Raggedy Ann doll and just stuff in. So yeah, the epic scene though ended up being like some henchmen guys were trying to get away, and so like her husband turned into a metal guy and punched his arm through the trunk. Well, he basically anchored the trunk down, and so the car couldn't move.
Yeah.
And then like my wife's character, who was like this gymnastic Mystique, like did some crazy flip shit, and like yeah, it was really cool. But anyways, long story short, I sucked at DMing that, but I realized with them I had to railroad things. And unfortunately, at that time, everything I saw online said, don't railroad your players because it is wrong and they're not going to have fun. So I was like, what do I do? Do I do this open sandbox like everyone tells me to do? They don't seem to be able to play that way. Or do I railroad?
Yeah. Which is open sandbox is a lot to just throw people into.
Right. So then I was like, I don't have anyone to play D&D with that's really, you know, can help me get better as a DM. So we had fun though playing Paula's game, because when she was DMing, it made sense. It was, you're in a tavern. Here's the hook. Do what you want. Obviously, I go after the hook because I want to solve stuff. But then Paula likes to craft puzzles and used to put all these cool puzzles that she'd come up with on her own. Like, oh, you stepped on the chessboard. You are now a chess piece that can't move unless you move in the chess thing. Like, you are locked in place. And as a group, you have to agree to do these movements. And it was cool. And then the wizard was nuts. He was out of his mind. And it was funny. And she did a funny voice. And it was awesome. And I remember we went into his lab where he was creating things, and we couldn't figure out what he was creating because none of us were smart enough, and we were failing rolls. And I think we broke like some Bunsen burners and different like glass things, and like burned down his tower or something. And we only played a few sessions, but it was fun because my wife got pregnant, and then my sister ended up getting pregnant almost at the same time. And so that campaign died. And then I had gallbladder surgery a year later. And as I was sitting home for 6 weeks, because I had it bad, I started watching YouTube. And I was watching like Wood WWAD, was watching, I can't think of his name. He's still around. Esper the Bard. I was watching Matt Click from A Fistful of Dice, Dawn Forged Cast, who was talking about Pathfinder, like all these different people. And then I found out there was a Facebook group called the YouTube RPG Brigade, where all these YouTubers were at. And I was like, I'm going to create a YouTube account so I can interact on their channel, just to comment. So I made a YouTube channel. And it was Juice734, which was my PlayStation username at the time. And the story of that was my alias online was Juice, because I used to do podcasts with music. Long story, don't need to get into all that. And I misspelled Juice on my 22nd birthday. My friend started calling me Juice, Juce, because I misspelled the word juice. I don't know why I was spelling every single ingredient that was in my drink. It was a tequila sunrise. I spelled everything else great. It's just juice.
That sounds like an alcohol-induced situation.
Oh, it was. And I was wasted. Because so my friends made up for my 21st birthday on my 22nd. They came hard. I got kicked out of the bar. I then got back in through a different entrance with a different bouncer. And then at the end of the night, and I got kicked out because I threw up. I then at the end of the night talked to the bouncer who kicked me out. And he's like, didn't I kick you out earlier? I was like, yeah. Anyways, 3 months later, I got a job at that bar. But, after my 22nd birthday.
Of course.
But anyways, fast forward again back to 2012. So I made that my username. And then I was like, there were certain things that got me triggered, or certain things I wanted to weigh in on, like about power gaming or about whether you should railroad or not. And my experiences were not so black and white. And so I took a very gray stance on these things. Like, to me, power gaming didn't mean you were abusing the system to gain leverage. To me, power gaming, using
the system.
So I misinterpreted what power gaming was at the time. In my mind, power gaming was you build an extremely strong character, and maybe it's optimized to hell, but you're not necessarily a disruptive player to the group. You're not necessarily stealing spotlight. So I would argue at that time that power gaming is not bad, and here's why. And so like people would then do a video response to me, and so that was a lot of stuff. Or talking about sandbox compared to railroad, and so I would say some groups need to be railroaded. And so then I would have these conversations. Nobody else agreed with me on the topic, but at the same time, people didn't realize it. They would sometimes accidentally agree. Like, oh, you have to give some guidance or a subtle nudge. And I'm like, yeah, but that's railroading.
That's railroading.
Like, you planned that dungeon. You made them go to that dungeon without making them. You gave them the illusion of choice. So I used to argue these things all the time. And I still sucked at DMing. So I was Juice734. Then it was Juice734 Wrestling with RPGs was my channel, because I liked wrestling. I liked to talk about wrestling at the time. And I liked RPGs. And then it slowly changed to Tabletop Gaming with Juice when I wanted to focus. And then it was Master the Game. And here I am today. Still going by Juice and Master the Game. But that was like 11 years ago now. A little over 11 and a half years ago.
Well, I'm happy I know that, because legitimately I thought your name was Juice for a very long time. And then I would hear your actual name. Oh, okay, Juice is not his name. And also, just isn't there supposed to be an I in there? I was like, I'm not going to question it.
Oh, so many people would tell me it was wrong.
I'm not going to question it
all the time. In fact, for a long time, if you searched for me on YouTube, it would put the I as the recommendation. So JUICE 734.
Like, that's not how I spell
Oh,
my name.
I know. It used to do that all the time. Or tabletop gaming with Juice, it would do it, but then spelled Juice,
Hmm.
Juice. And it was like, there are companies named Juce. Like, there's two other companies called this. This shouldn't be this big of a deal, but it was. And a lot of people would be like, you misspelled Juice. You must be dumb. It's like, I was drunk. And it stuck with me. And it's one of the few of the thousands of nicknames people have tried to give me that actually stuck. But I liked it, and it is
It
what it
works.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not something anyone else has.
No.
So yeah, it became my
Legit.
thing.
Yeah, legitimately didn't know there were companies called Juice.
Paul
Juce.
Paula also did not know I was doing YouTube for like months because I didn't tell her. I would just do it when she was asleep. Or for instance, I did it on a business trip when I had nothing to do in a hotel room. I made video responses. Like, so I just kind of was doing it.
As one does.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I was purposely keeping it a secret a little bit because I did feel like a big old nerd.
And you are.
I mean,
And
I am.
that's okay.
I am. I've embraced it over the years. But the first couple months, I didn't really. And then I was a little embarrassed when I would tell people I had a YouTube channel about gaming as an adult man. Like, at the time, it wasn't like everyone was doing it. And so I felt weird sometimes.
Oh no, that's how I feel about D&D. Like
Yeah.
there's some people I'll tell that, yeah. Not Fridays, don't talk to me because
Yeah.
I have a game that I'm either running or playing in. And then a couple of my friends at work, we have like a meme Instagram channel,
Yeah.
send stuff back and forth. And I guess at some point someone had sent something and mentioned me. It's Friday. I am in the middle of DMing a game, and I didn't respond. And like I didn't see the message till like Saturday morning or something.
Yeah.
And like it's just like my name. Where is he at? Oh, he's a big old nerd. He's probably playing D&D fighting a dragon or something. And I was like, my coworkers know me. And I did throw a dragon at my players, and they killed it. No, they didn't fight it. They didn't fight it at all. They fought other stuff. But I
My,
just one think they were going to fight a dragon.
I had some coworkers. So I worked at a manufacturing facility. And when I first started there, there was I got close to a lot of different people there, and over time, like they were some of my best friends. I worked there for a total of about a decade in two different stints. But there was a point where, after a couple of years there was this new guy, and apparently he used to film himself. I don't know if it was like on Vine. This was probably around 2007 or 2008 ish. Maybe it was even before then. Anyways, he used to film himself in a chair spinning and like laughing as he's spinning. Don't ask me. I never saw the video. Oh my gosh, I'm doing the Donald Trump. It was so big. Anyways,
I never saw the video.
so
Great
he was
video.
so he was spinning in a chair, and they made fun of him for this video he did. Now I had no context. I was like, man, they're kind of mean behind this guy's back, like talking about things he's doing for fun, like whatever. And at this time, I had that podcast I was talking about, and I had multiple MySpace accounts. One was a personal one. One was for my podcast that I did on Blog Talk Radio. I was also on at the time Justin TV, which was later turned into Twitch. And there was another site that like you would have like multiple cameras up and you could hang out and talk to people, but you would invite them to this like room and they could then jump in and turn the camera on or whatever. And like I would just hang out and drink at home with people in this chat and talk about my podcast, which if you think about it, that's not much different than going like on a TikTok live today and inviting people in to hang out. And so like it's not that weird to be like drinking, talking to people in that situation. However, back then it was so abnormal or not like the thing that people did. So people be like, I'm worried about him. Once they found out I was doing this, they're like, he's at home drinking by himself. And it made me feel like such a loser. But at the same time, I was like actually hanging out with people I considered friends and stuff in 2008, But yeah, so anyways, I think that stuck with me when I started the YouTube channel and gave me that feeling of like,
Oh,
I don't know if I want to say much. And then it kind of, people started to find out, and people like at that job would try to make fun of me because I played D&D, and I was like, yeah, it is nerdy, but it's fun. You should try it. No, we're not going to, you know. So it was like, okay. And I had one guy who wanted to play, but his wife made fun of him, so then he wouldn't play, and it was like, this is stupid. He liked Lord of the Rings. He loved that show. She wouldn't watch that movie with him because she thought it was nerdy. And it was like, it is, but this is fun. So yeah, it was a whole thing.
I'm looking at D&D like the way I look at books. There's so many people say, I don't like to read. Yeah, you do. It's just a matter of finding the right thing for you to read. You say D&D is nerdy and you don't want to play. You say that till I give you the power of a barbarian. And you're like, I'm sorry, did I just crush that thing with my bare hands? Yes, you did. Oh my God, this game is amazing.
Right. It's so cool. It's like it's playing an action movie. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then when I started telling people, oh, by the way, here I am 2 years in and I'm making money off of YouTube, which again, in 2014, people couldn't wrap their head around that. Like, that's a thing. And it's like, yeah, I'm making money. I'm making like a couple $100 a month back in 2014 at times, depending on things. Or not a month. It was like you'd get a paycheck once it crossed the threshold of $100. And so it was like every couple months you'd get like $130 paycheck if you had like a couple really good videos that month. But most of my videos were not that great. It would be like me just talking about an opinion on something or whatever. But it was fun, dude. And I met so many cool people that I still talk to this day. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's how it is for me with TikTok.
Yeah, you met me.
Yeah, I met you, and then one of my friends, who's Hello Operator on TikTok.
Okay.
He was making videos before me, and I was like, this actually seems kind of fun. I'm also going to do it, and then started meeting people.
Yeah.
And people that I've gamed with, people that I got to meet in person when I went to Gen Con. I actually did a D&D podcast with the Mad Maker on TikTok.
The Mad Maker?
The Mad Maker.
I don't know who that is.
And now I'm actually gonna have to, it's been a minute since I listened to our podcast, so I like the name of it is escaping me, but it was essentially,
let me know so I can put it in the description.
Yeah, it's like, but it was essentially I had joined, I think it was last year. There was the whole D&D TikTok charity stream event. And someone's just like, hey, would you love to do something in it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I was in a battle royale. And I was just like, I'm just going to play my character, Tavastir Colbrun. He's just a dwarf forge cleric. It'll be fun to just crack a few skulls. And then the Mad Maker played this orc cleric who, I want to say his name is Paul, and I feel like that's
Paul.
I feel like that's not the name of the character. But his both our characters were just like his very salt of the earth kind of people. And what was supposed to be battle royale was just two teams of, I don't really want to do this, but I'm here and I'm told I have to kill you. I feel bad about this.
It's like an arena.
Yeah. And so the prize was you get a wish, whatever you want. And so the Matt Maker's character, his cleric's family was killed by zombies. His wish is to bring his family back and to rid the world of undead forever. I don't even remember. Oh, my character's wish was, I want to be an attendant of the Forge of Moradin. I want to work with the god. So we're going back and forth, and our team is winning. And then world events start setting in, and there's lava. And I'm like, my character's like, you're a good person. You have a good, honorable wish. I'm going to take the L on this one. You go save your family and the world. And I saved his character. I died in lava. And then our team lost. And then the DM was just like, yeah, by the way, when you die, your soul goes to Moradin because he's like, you're a good person. It's like, oh my god. But people who watched the stream were like, oh my god, we love both of your characters. It would be crazy if both of you guys were like buddy cops.
Oh,
And so
nice.
he had hit me up like after the stream was like, would you want to do like a buddy cop event, like a little buddy cop adventure thing? I was like, yeah, sure, I'd be down.
Oh yeah.
So we recorded a little buddy cop adventure that I was like this gun happy former paladin on the force, and I'm being transferred to this small town to as a new deputy working under his cleric, and we're gonna have shenanigans because I'm big city, he's small town, and we're gonna do, and it was genuinely fun. Like I enjoyed every moment of it. And then I got an email from like PayPal. It's like, oh, by the way, $200 some was deposited in your account. Like, where did I get money from? I got paid for doing a podcast.
Oh, because he makes money, so he paid you for the time.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my
Yep.
god, I didn't know I was getting paid for this. No, yeah, we have advertisements and whatnot. Yeah,
See,
we're gonna.
I want to get to that point where I can pay people. I don't make like squat on it. Like my YouTube channel right now makes like $14 a month. That's where I'm at. Like I don't put enough content out. You know? I mean, I could split that between the 4 groups I run for and be like, here's your 50 cents this month.
I was like, okay, cool. Like TikTok has actually led to like a lot of cool stuff. It feels a little awkward telling people that I have TikTok. Because every time I do, it's always, what are you doing on TikTok? I'm like, I'm not making dances. I talk about D&D. That's literally all I do.
Right.
Which is also fun because I used to work at a high school, and so there would be students in the hallway with their phone set up during passing period, holding up traffic because they're doing dances, and then I get to pretend to be an old man and then walk away like, what are you guys doing? Is this those TikToks?
Did you really do that? You'd be like, oh, is this
100%.
like that TikTok?
100%. I TikTok, talk tick. I don't know. This is Miss Race. Get out of the way. You're interrupting our TikTok. Like, first off,
none of them ever saw you?
No, it's the crazy part.
Nobody in your school played D&D?
No. There were a couple kids that played Magic, but not a one. The only person I know for sure who played D&D was an English teacher there.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. I actually like, because one of the teachers was just like, I would love to learn D&D. Could you teach me? Yeah, sure, but we're gonna need more than you. We're gonna need a couple people. And it's like, we'll figure it out. And so it was her and then the English teacher, and then he had messaged me just like, hey, so like I just started dating this woman. She also plays D&D, but she hasn't played in a while. Would it be cool if I brought her? And like our date could be you DMing? And it's like, absolutely.
Oh, that could get weird though.
It could. It didn't. It was actually really great. There were some techniques I learned from TikTok about just like not keeping track of like monster health. Just let it die when you feel like it's ready to die, and like everyone got the hit and whatnot.
Based on the feel of the combat before it gets boring. Yeah, I've seen people say that.
Stuff like that. So I had wrote like this very basic, you're all adventurers hired by a wizard because something was stolen. You got to go get the thing and stop the cult. And we helped the one teacher who never played before build a first level character. And then I just threw them in. They did stupid D&D shenanigans, like buy a horse. And then the ranger was like, I have this cool spell called Speak with Animals. Like, oh my God, I have to give the horse a voice now. And taught him how to level up, and then throw him against just zombies and undead, and then throw him against the cult and this crazy demon, and just like pulled this weird mechanic out of my ass because it was like the cult is trying to summon a demon, and there's the statue of the demon, and they're trying to make it real.
Yeah.
And the English teacher, his character, who was the ranger, was just like, if I cast silence, do I disrupt the ritual because I can't chant anymore? And I was like, oh my God, that's genius.
That's perfect.
And I was like, yeah, you realize that they can't finish the ritual, but it's half done. You can see the statue is flickering between stone and like this demon, and it's going back and forth like, yeah, you quickly realize you disrupted the ritual, so it's not fully back. It's kind of trapped in this limbo state. And then I just like made it so like, okay, you guys hit. Every time you missed, you didn't miss because you were terrible or your shot went wide. You missed because the demon just happened to flicker back to stone and it just glanced off. And then I just let him do that until like made sure that everyone through that thing had got the kill on something. And I'm like, you guys killed it. And I
Nice,
was
and
like,
everyone
okay,
felt great.
cool. Everyone felt great. And too, just like, I love D&D now. It's like, that was the point. And I'm happy that I could bring you to this. I'm happy that I can escort you to this moment in your life.
That's awesome. I love it. I love hearing stuff like that. I'm excited that my kids like it. And so we've been talking about doing a family game, and I can't wait till we do. I did introduce my daughter to it on my YouTube channel. We did stream it a little bit when she was a little younger. Did a few sessions where early on it was like 30 minutes because didn't really have the attention span. And it was more like, hey, you are in a... Like, I tried to do role-playing stuff. She wasn't even into that. She just wanted to fight stuff. So we did dungeons, and she rescued a boy and, like, saved him from the dungeon and killed a bunch of things, like spiders, and loved it. And then we did it again a couple years later, and we did a little bit of roleplay again, though she mostly wanted to just fight stuff. So we did that a few times, and that was fun. And then they have done a kids game with some friends, and it's been okay, but there's too many people. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6 kids of ages ranging from 7 to 15, I think. And so it's just a little much because the older kids want to do a little more of certain things, and the younger kids just want things to go fast and fight stuff. But then when you do the fights, it slows down, so the attention span's tough for the younger couple. But they all enjoy it. So we're thinking about doing a family game with Paula and my daughter and my 8-year-old son. So I think that'll be fun. We're talking about doing it in the next couple of weeks, actually. So, which I would DM, and it would be in my homebrew world. So,
ooh, lovely.
I know. I run a lot of games in my homebrew world. I've tried doing more modules lately. And that's what I've done since COVID, because I was like, oh, it'll be easy to run multiple modules because I won't have to prep as much.
Yeah, you just got the book right there. Maybe do some light reading before the session, and then, yeah, you're good.
That was my thought. And then I've tried that. And I should have learned when I did Adventures League how restrictive it was and how I didn't like running modules back in 2014 when 5e first came out. And I was like, oh, this isn't as much fun because I feel like I can't like do what I want to do as much because then I'm off book and then it doesn't feel like you're staying true. So I had all these issues, but then I decided to try it again. Luckily, we've ended Descent into Avernus, which was awesome. But I found myself taking a lot of creative liberties, removing a lot of stuff, and then still being mad about certain things in the module that I did and other stuff. Wasn't as rewarding for me as a DM as I was hoping from the standpoint of the module. The game was fun. I feel like if I took more liberties and had better prepped it all up front, it would have been way better and just ran it my way. Yeah, and I think, in fact, that's my takeaway for anyone ever running modules, I think, moving forward. If I ever do decide to do that again, I will do it that way, where I will read it all the way through, or at least skim it, make my own plans for it, and then throw the book away and never look back at the book.
I mean, I hope so, because I don't necessarily support Wizards on the Coast. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, I have all these books that I already own.
Yeah, but that new Fandelver, the Shattered Obelisks, it looks kind of cool, and I
don't have it.
I'm not gonna buy it because I'm not gonna buy it. But from what I hear, it looks cool, especially because like,
is this the AI art thing that they've been talking about?
No, I want to say that one was for the Bigsby's. Is Bigsby's the Giant? No, it's Bigsby.
Oh, this giant.
Whatever.
Thing?
It's either the Giant book or Bigsby's something or something.
Okay.
But like the Shattered Obelisk one, because I know throughout a lot of their modules have just been just rando black obelisks just
Yeah.
scattered throughout
I saw
Faerun.
Jordan, the PH is Silent, do a video a long time ago
Mhm.
about it.
And
And
like I
then all of a sudden
know,
it became a thing.
yeah, and I know that the lore behind them is they're tied to like ancient Netheril, which I love the ancient lore of like Faerun and whatnot because it's actually really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like these obelisks are tied to it, and they don't do anything. They're kind of just there. You can interact with them, but
So
ooh,
now
no one
this
knows.
ties it up probably.
Yeah, and like this, and it's supposed to be like this is the obelisk. Something's gonna happen, and I think Vecton's gonna come back to some weird crap, and this is how we're
Mm,
gonna reboot the multiverse or whatever, and bring us into
6th edition.
sixth edition. I mean,
Digital D&D.
one D&D.
Are they calling it one D&D
God,
again?
I think they might still be calling it one D&D. I honestly, I, I stopped paying attention a while
It,
ago.
it's going all digital. It's gonna happen. So I've seen people debating the AI DM thing. I mean, hey, if they can do that, I'm cool with it. I think making it so you don't have to have a group is awesome because I was in that situation for a long time, and it would have been awesome to be able to play by myself, by
Oh no, yeah.
myself, and have a experience that would have been fun. So I'm okay with that. I know some people are against it because they're like, it defeats the purpose. D&D should be played with friends. But even when you have friends, sometimes, at least in the past, it's easy now. But when I was in high school, and even out of high school, it was very hard to get people to play D&D.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a stigma attached to it. I don't know if that's there now for like young 20-year-olds, but it was definitely there when I was in my young 20s.
Oh no, it's still there to a certain degree because like a lot of like one of the constant questions that I'll get on like TikTok will always be someone like, I love D&D, I
Mhm.
love your videos. How do I find people to play D&D with? And then they're just me like, well, there's a lot of things available to you. You can go and roll 20. I met people to play D&D with on like the Meetup app. It's really all about what you feel comfortable with.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I like nowadays I feel like if I wanted to fill a new game tomorrow, I could find 6 or 7 people
Oh,
easy if I
absolutely.
wanted that many
In a
people.
heartbeat. In
Yeah,
a
like
heartbeat.
hop on TikTok. Hey guys, I'm starting a new campaign in my homebrew world. Here's the premise. I'm looking for da 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 da. If this sounds like something you want to do, let's play. Done. I'd probably get at least 2 or 3 people that way. Go over to Reddit. You can go into message forums still.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook has group finders now. There's so many out there. So yeah.
Oh, so many.
Yep. No, I love the new world in that regard. Internet has been great and bad at the same time.
Oh no, yeah. Like my dedicated Friday group that I've been playing with, I joined that group on the Roll20 find a game thing.
Yeah.
I was like, COVID hit, most of my games crashed and burned because we can't hang out.
Yep.
I was just like, I need D&D in my life. It's the only thing that keeps me sane. I was like, oh, Roll20, you can find a game. And so like I applied to a bunch of them,
Yep.
and like a couple of them hit me back. Most of them, I was like, now that I have more information, this doesn't seem like something I'm actually interested in now.
Mm-hmm.
Or they didn't accept my application. I don't really know what that means, but whatever. And yeah, my friend, my great friend now, Phil, who's Stripper Rabbit on TikTok.
Stripper Rabbit?
Stripper Rabbit.
Is he a stripper?
He is not. He is a landscaper. No, not landscaper. Home. He's gonna kill me because he's told us about a job. Home. I think he actually does all of it. It's like home renovations, landscaping, interior decorating, whole 9 yards.
So I recently stumbled across a TikToker who apparently goes and does whatever you want at your house completely naked. And
Oh no, yeah, those
there's guys and girls who do this, 1st of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just saying, if this was something that I felt I could do, I would 100% do it as a career. I'm just throwing that out there. So if you guys are interested in buying my services, I'm kidding, but I'm not. I don't know what my wife would think of that though.
Yeah, like I joined his game with a bunch of randos
Yeah.
on like a Friday. And I was like, okay, I'm just here to play D&D. I don't care about any of these people. I don't want to be friends with them. And then
You become friends.
no, I like my friends and my family. And we've
Yeah.
played D&D last year at Gen Con. One was my very first con
Mm-hmm.
I've ever been to my entire life. Two, first time I've been on a plane. So that was fun. And then like three, got to meet these crazy people in like person and play
Yep.
D&D at an actual table. And I was like, oh, yep, we're all drinking together and we're all sharing our feelings.
Yep. I know what you mean.
I'm not gonna say who, but if he listens and or watches this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Told us that like we're he loves us all and we're his brothers and family, because he tells us that every time he drinks. And it's hilarious.
I used to tell some of my friends I loved them that you could tell a lot of them got very uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, that's the
whole
toxic masculinity thing.
I know.
We don't have to
it's how we can't help how we were raised and the No, I know for sure. No, I get that, because in 2014 I started talking to the guys from Nerdarchy, and just there were tens of guys, maybe even hundreds, that we used to hang out in Google Hangouts. Sometimes not, and Nerdarchy wouldn't stay this long, but we would hang out from like 8 at night till 6 in the morning until the last person couldn't hang anymore. And like we would just talk about RPGs. And we did it originally, it was Gen Con that year in 2014. I decided, hey, those of us who can't go to, and I posted it in the YouTube RPG Brigade Facebook group. This is like 2 years after I had joined that group. I was like, hey, let's go on Google Hangouts and talk about RPGs. And by the way, I'm going to record it, because you could upload straight from Google Hangouts live, stream it to YouTube. I was like, let's just stream it to YouTube. And that way, if anybody wants to come in and watch and hang out, because they're not at Gen Con also, we can just socialize. And that night, me, AJ Pickett, and then Andrew Knapp, SR2 Joker on YouTube back in the day. He deleted his channel, I think, or made it all unlisted. But we came up with an idea. And I think I started the idea. I said, I hate that I couldn't find people to play games with for the longest time. I really want to play Palladium books. AJ Pickett was in Australia or New Zealand. I can't remember. I think Australia. And he also loved Palladium books. So that's how he knew who I was. And we used to talk about Palladium books all the time, and Heroes Unlimited and Rifts and all that. We're like, yeah, it would be cool if there was like a place you could go and you could just say, hey, I've got this game I want to play. I can't find people. I'm willing to play one game that you run. So like say there's 5 people that are in this group. You go, I'll play a game that each of you want to play, but each of you have to also try my game once. And so like you just rotate through. That was the concept. And so we're like, yeah, that would be cool, because all of us are into all these different games. And some of the people had like there was a guy named Chepe who we called him the third party RPG master. And like, we used to kind of joke that he was like a monk or something, like this enlightened person. And because he loved the most obscure RPGs. And he would talk about them all the time with such passion, like nobody I had ever met before. And so there was like Made the RPG. So at one time someone set that up. But before we got to that, we decided like, yeah, it'd be cool if this group happened. And like 2 days passed and I was like, I'm going to make a Facebook group for this. And we're just going to see what happens. So like I started it and I used a different group that I had started that nothing came of. And it was the original group that I had before this was like all genre entertainment. The idea was if you had a blog, a YouTube channel, whatever, just come in and promote it. Like again, it was similar, but it was not about actual gaming. It could be, but the idea was we just lift each other as a community and promote other people, but it didn't work. It fizzled because I think it wasn't niched down enough,
Gotcha.
So I renamed it to the Tabletop RPG One-Shot Group. And the idea was you would come in, you'd be willing to run your game, and then other people would play it, but then you would have to agree to play in other people's games to try those games.
Oh, I like this.
It was great. It very quickly, within weeks, so all sorts of people within the YouTube community at the time. Imagine if everybody on TikTok who did D&D content or RPG content was like, yeah, let's get this group going so people can play all these different games. And everybody unified and joined this group and promoted the group. And that's what happened. Everybody on YouTube at that time promoted this group.
There would be so many games.
There was
So many games.
There were some people like Lloyd Collins, who wrote like the Viking RPG. He's from Ireland. So, anyways, he got to a point where he was running a game a night, and he did this for like 40 days straight or something crazy. And like a lot of Viking themed games and stuff like that. It was awesome. And like just everyone was doing this. It was so cool. This group, it started at the end of 2014. By like February of 2015, I want to say it was like 4,500 people. It got to a point where I stopped doing YouTube videos because I was busy moderating, handling drama. And the moderation, we had this it was pretty stupid, but it worked when we were small. It was, guys, we aren't going to moderate. This is the Wild West. Like, that was kind of the concept, because we didn't like the censorship in the YouTube RPG Brigade. Because, like, if you didn't agree with someone, like, yeah, I don't know. My opinion changed very quickly once we started getting bigger, and I had to deal with people having drama between each other that were very prominent figures in this group. And I just wanted to play games. And unfortunately, I got sucked so much into the bull crap that I lost my passion for a while.
Yeah, that's how I am with TikTok right now.
Oh, see? And like, it was tough. I don't think the group exists anymore. It popped up again like a year or two ago. I think Andrew brought it back, but I don't know what's happening with it. He told me I could like rejoin and stuff, but I don't really care to. Like, it's easy to find a game now. Like, I don't have a need for it in my life at this point. But it was an awesome group. Ton of great memories. It started around the same time that I joined the Provokers, which was a campaign run by a Fistful of Dice. Awesome campaign. I only played in season 1. I think they're on like season 3. It's over on the Fistful of Dice channel. Highly recommend it. Amazing role play. It taught me what role-playing games could be. It truly did. It was a fantastic experience. I did not know until playing that game that you could play a very cool like narrative campaign.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, dude, trust me. I know. I used to believe in like just rolling dice and wrecking stuff and more of the gamey aspect before that experience. And even first session, I was role playing and I was into it, which you'll see if you go and watch it. But like that campaign, and we had fans doing fan art. Like it was crazy. It was like,
that's how you know you made it. Get fan art.
When we would go live, this was end of 2014. When we would go live, we would have over 100 people watching us live with our crappy Google Plus Hangouts camera setups, our crummy overlays at the time, which it wasn't like today's streams. And we would broadcast it live to YouTube. We had technical difficulties, but it was a blast. And like, we got a lot of criticism in my group that I created because people claimed we were profiting off this. I never made a penny off of it. The other guys, except for Nate, started a company called Absolute Tabletop. They've released RPG products since then. So, I mean, I guess they profited off of it. I mean, I'm sure Matt, whose YouTube channel it was, probably got AdSense money for it, But who cares? It was us having fun. I think people loved watching it. Like, the stories were great. The fan art was fun. People thought we were being hero worshipped. I think people were jealous is what it came down to. But it was awesome. I loved it. And it changed how I play games. It changed. And again, I'm still not as good as like the guys in that group. But I learned so much and I am super thankful for that. So meeting people from online and stuff has been awesome. Like Gen Con 50, I met Dave from Nerdarchy, and I actually went with Cody Lewis from Taking 20. He actually paid for me to go to Gen Con that year. So I got to have a good time with that. I met Bill Allen there. I met Roleplay Roulette. Met that guy and their partner, which they're awesome, by the way. They also liked Palladium books, and they used to do funny, like, well-edited reviews back in like 2013 for what was a well-edited YouTube video at the time. But yeah, they're great stuff. Creating content online has led to some of my best friends. Like, love it. So yeah, I like meeting people from the community has been awesome. I'm always down for it pretty much. I've had some bad experiences. I mean, there's been drama and there's been some bad experiences, but and a lot of the even people I've mentioned in these stories, I've fallen out of contact with because of drama. But I still remember the good times, and you know, so I am still thankful for it and would do it a lot of it all over again. Minus like a couple of things, but you live and learn.
Understandable.
I will say it's been a couple years since I've had any real drama with the community or anybody in it. So I am thankful for that. But I think I've also vetted things a little better. You know, I think I've learned from being in tough situations. Like, I know fairly quickly, like, what to look for. Like, I knew when I saw some of your TikToks, and I knew, like, how you engaged with the community. I was like, I need to reach out to this guy to play in a D&D game because he is awesome. I did the same thing with a couple people through his channel was Le Top Hat. So he played in a one shot on my channel, and then I played in a couple one shots, and we did some streams for I'm so terrible at names, and it's been like over a year. It was like 2 years ago on Halloween. We played like a one shot that I got to play in, and it was really cool. DM Wolf and some other people. I think some of them renamed themselves as well, but they were cool people, and I reached out to them because they were looking for a group and they couldn't find people, and they only had like 30 subscribers or followers on TikTok. I was like, you, sir, are very entertaining. You wear a top hat in your videos, and you are awesome.
It's a top hat. You have to follow them.
Right.
I want a top hat. Oh,
and he was always on coffee. Like, he acted like he was on drugs on purpose. Like, it was a little shtick thing. And he'd be like, you know, and it was like, yes, love this guy. So, yeah, that was fun. And he loves xenomorphs. Loves them.
Ah, good old chest bursters.
Yeah, it's been great. So I actually haven't talked to them in a couple years. I should hop on their Discord and see if they still post. But yeah, I love the community. Always have. People talk about like the toxicity on Twitter for a long time. I never really got involved in any of that. My feed was curated pretty well. So this has been an interesting conversation so far. We've totally talked about everything but what we were going to talk about. How many people do you think you have made close friends with within the community thanks to TikTok? Because you've only been on for 3 years now.
Probably like 3 years, if that. I know there are, like, just from TikTok alone, it's a few, just because like I know I've only actually, like, I've talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I've only actually played in like games with like a few of them. I think it's Highland Games. He DM'd a game for a couple of TikTokers. That was cool. And see, this is where me being ancient comes into play, because I know people's faces, don't remember names.
That's me, man.
So I will be like, I'm gonna reference people, and I feel like it's probably not their TikTok handle, but I know I would consider them a good friend. Golden Dragon, something along those lines. They make dice, and they're from Utah. I feel like that would help anyone was like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
I don't know. But see, I know dice makers too. I can't name any of them. And there's a ton of them I've communicated with. I've won dice contests with some of them, and I can't name any of them right now.
Yeah, you know, Mish, if you ever hear this, I know who you are. I just don't remember names. TikTok handles anyway. But yeah, met them. We played in a game that Island Games put on, and I think we did like 2 little mini campaigns. Like doing some Eberron some Eberron stuff, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And got to meet them at Gen Con for the first time last year. And I was just like, I personally wasn't expecting to run into anyone that like I've interacted with before. And like I remember, because like the first year I went was they still had the mask thing. So we're walking around like this, So you could
Mm-hmm.
only see half my face. So there are definitely lots of looks of people who think they recognize me but weren't sure.
Yeah.
And like I definitely notice a lot of people that I've seen their TikToks before. But
Yeah.
I'm also a very polite, respectful person. I don't assume that you're here to just meet up with people. If you look like you're here and you're with friends or family or whomever and you're
I'm gonna
shopping,
leave you
I'm
alone.
I'm not gonna bother you. I'm like I want to, but I'm not gonna bother you. So if you saw me and it looked like I ignored you, I didn't. I was being respectful.
You are way better than me. Like if I see someone I recognize, I'm like, I'm the loud one that's like, hey, it's blah blah blah. Like if I remember their name. Problem is usually I don't remember the name. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're on TikTok. I'm like, I'll be that guy. Mid conversation, I'm that jerk. I
Oh, because like this year when I went, um Grim Hollow Gaming or Ghostfire Gaming, who does the Grim Hollow books, which
Mhm.
if anyone's ever seen my TikToks, you know that I love dark fantasy and I've been repping Grim Hollow for like
Yeah.
the longest time. They had a booth and I was very excited. And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna see if there's anything new that they're putting out. So I went to the booth and one of the guys behind the table, I watch a crap ton of his YouTube videos about the Grim Hollow setting, how
Yeah.
to best
Those books are
handle.
cool looking.
Yeah. So, like, as I look over and they're just on my bookshelf next to my Tome of Beasts and my Cthulhu 5e gaming book because I have a problem. But, like, this guy that I've watched dozens of his videos, they have been very helpful and informative.
Mhm.
And my brain is just like, oh my God, I just want to say all the things. And then outside, I'm just like, I would like to purchase a book, please.
Oh, yeah, no, I would totally say, I know you from blah blah blah. Thank you so much.
It's like, yeah, he was also dealing with other customers. And like, I want to just borrow you for like 45 minutes to maybe 3
Yeah.
hours and just talk.
That's how Randall and I started talking. So Randall and I apparently have two completely different stories about how we met. So I remember, so I used to volunteer at our local convention called GrandCon. I did it like 5 or 6 years, something like that, something crazy. And I was volunteering, but I was walking the floor. So just making
Mm-hmm.
sure everything's good. Sometimes vendors say, hey, I need to run to the bathroom. Can you just like make sure nothing gets stolen? Yeah, sure. Go to the bathroom. I'll sit right here. And as I came up to his, I had seen his Kickstarter, but I like money was tight. Like money has been very tight for me for a long time. So I was like, I'm going to tell you how much I appreciate your Kickstarter because I can't afford to back it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the start. I was like, I love your stuff. I saw your Kickstarter. Like, hey, did Wizards of the Coast have a problem with you using art of like D&D style monsters and things like that? And like, he was like, oh yeah, no, I actually talked to people because Randall does his stuff. Like he talked to people and, goes through and does it legit and stuff like that. And his books are great. He's got 2 children's books. He's got an RPG coming out, the Little Game Master series. They're great. So
Books, yeah, they are.
I had bald head, which if you go back and watch Provokers, I had hair.
I need to
Yeah.
do this just to see you with hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I looked like a completely different person. I was also at some point in that campaign up to 313 plus pounds. So to give you an idea, right now I've been as low in the last couple months as 258. So much
nice.
smaller than I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still big. I'm still a big guy. So when he was there, I was looking because he had art, like fan art he had done. So one of the pieces that I still have is Cloud Strife in color. And I was like, oh, I love your art. I want to do something to support you, but I can't afford a book today. So I want to buy some art. So I bought that piece of art. And I said, one day I'm going to buy your books. And later I did. I ended up buying both of his books at the same time. And it was after both of his Kickstarters because I couldn't get in on his second one either. And as we're talking about stuff, I was like, oh, I got a YouTube channel. He's like, oh, really? That's awesome. He's like, so do you know there's like other YouTubers here? And I was like, yeah. He's like I saw Nate from WASD 20 over in the other room. And I was like, yeah, I actually DM'd Nate's first home campaign for him. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, when he was starting on YouTube, I actually was driving down the street over here and I saw him in the van next to me. I was like, hey, I know you from YouTube. And he's like, I know you from YouTube. And so we pulled over at Taco Bell and talked for like 5 minutes and decided we should hang out sometime since we live so close. And we didn't realize that we lived like 2 minutes apart. Literally like
that is super
blocks
close.
away. Oh, yeah. But he was like small guy at this time. Like I'm talking not even 100 subscribers yet. Like he was talking about computer stuff and RPGs because he was interested in RPGs. And like his RPGs that he was getting into were Pathfinder and I think 13th Age at the time. And I was like, yeah, I've got someone who wants to play Pathfinder and I like Pathfinder. Let's do it. And 5e wasn't out yet. And then 5e came out like right after that. But anyways, so I told Harold all this and then Harold's like, oh. And I had mentioned in that conversation, I was like, yeah, I used to play in the Provokers campaign. He's like, I used to watch Provokers. Are you Juce? And that's how we met. Me and Harold. Or I mean, me and Randall Hampton. But yeah, like, and obviously Randall lives one town over from me right now. So Randall's a town over from me. Nate from WSD 20 is a town over from me. Luke from the DM Lair is like 45 minutes away from me. Jake from Mini Terrain Domain is like 30 minutes away from me. And I've played with all of them in the same campaign that was Descent into Avernus at the start.
You guys are super close together.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many content creators here in Michigan. It's great. Like we had talked at Grand Con a couple years ago about we should do something collaboratively where it's not necessarily a convention, but we just bring all the Michigan content creators together and invite our audiences out for like a weekend of D&D or RPGs.
Yeah, that just sounds fun.
Doesn't it? Like a little retreat. And then I feel like Luke had already been brewing something because he announced his convention that I think was going to happen in Texas during COVID, like right after that, like 6 months later. So yeah. Yeah. And I think he was originally trying to do it in Michigan, but there are a ton of people in Michigan. It's crazy. The community's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any. I don't know if we have any local people for me
in Sacramento. I mean,
yeah,
you got a lot of people in Southern Cal.
Yeah, a lot
dude.
Of
You got Critical Role. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, you know me and Matt Mercer. We game all the time.
You should. Joe Manganella lives down the street too.
Like, I would love to play in a game with any of these human beings.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would be as a person.
Okay. You have inspired this question right off of that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but who is your dream group of celebrities or people? It could be current D&D players. It could be movie actors, musicians, whatever you want. But if you could put together a dream RPG table to play, we'll say a one-shot or a campaign, whatever you decide, who would it be? And what would the premise of the campaign be?
Oh my God, Travis Willingham, Matt Mercer, Brendan Mulligan, Bria Apricard. Ashley, I don't remember her last name because I don't really actually think I know who from like Dimension 20.
Okay.
I don't know how like that really.
So I don't know their names, but I know what they all look like. I know Brendan, obviously, and I know, you know.
Who was at Gen Con, and I wish I would have just seen him walking around.
Yeah. So I got to see Matt Mercer a few times at Gen Con 50. So when Cody landed on his plane, apparently he was on the same plane as like the Critical Role people. So because I drove there from Michigan, it's in Indianapolis, obviously. I drove there like 6 hours, and I met him at the airport to pick him up to then go to our hotel room. And as I'm sitting there, I look over as I'm waiting and I see people waiting for their bags. And I'm like, that's Matt Mercer in that vest. Oh, there's his wife.
The vest.
Yeah, he had the vest. And then that's his wife. Oh my gosh, they're all right there. Oh my gosh. And then Cody texts me, hey, I just got off the plane. I think I was on the plane with Critical Role. I think their flight went to Texas, picked me up in Dallas, and flew up here. I was like, this is crazy. And as I'm sitting there waiting for Cody, I don't know why he took longer to even come out there because I didn't even see him yet. I'm sitting there, and Matt Mercer walks in front of my silver Ford Escape, right by my window, to the car that was just parked to my left, and puts his luggage in that trunk. And I was like, I don't even watch Critical Role, but I am starstruck right now. Like, this man is so beautiful, and like the stuff that he crafts is so great. God,
Like,
I didn't say anything. I feel like I should have. And then I saw him at Gen Con. He was in the Hyatt building across from Gen Con on the second floor. I saw him there, and I got to say hi. I don't remember if I think he did say hi back and smiled, but that was that. If you like OSR, that's cool. I enjoy it. I have like, some OSR type games over here.
it
I
is brutal.
Oh, for sure. And I like that stuff. I also like that I can make a character in about 30 seconds with dice and paper without an
Yeah.
app and just jump into a game.
The one time I played OSR a few times because my friend super loves OSR and he was like, I really want to run this. I think you guys might like it.
Yeah.
I think I burned through 3 characters in about 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, first guy took poison gas to the face. Second guy got killed by a mummy. Third guy fell down a flight of stairs.
Yeah. No, I do like it. So like I enjoy advanced D&D. I like the rules cyclopedia. I have that over there. So that's kind of the gist of it, of what I've got. I've got the Goodman Games Temple of Elemental Evil books that they had actually given to me to review. So I had reviewed that a couple years ago. Goodman Games does a great job with the recreation of their stuff, of the old D&D stuff. I like those a lot. But yeah, so anyways, it was a cool experience. But back to like the dream group idea. I have done videos on this on the channel, and it changes every few months. Like I go around, I think it would be really fun to play with someone like a comedian. So in the past,
absolutely.
I've said things like, "Oh, Kevin Hart would be a hilarious barbarian or even a bard, but I prefer a damn barbarian for him." And The Rock playing the bard, or like, I don't know, Jack Black as the bard, which now he's kind of done stuff.
He just is a bard.
Yeah, so like, I mean, it would still be awesome. And I love Tenacious D, and they have a song named after me, so it's all good. Like, I love Jack Black, so I would love to play with him. I've always said, so a lot of people love Matt Mercer as a DM and these other, celebrity DMs. My absolute favorite is Chris Perkins. I love Acquisitions Incorporated. Love it. And because I think it's funny, and I enjoy watching when they do the live stuff from PAX and stuff, like the stuff they did with Will Wheaton, and basically anyone from those games too, I think would be super cool to play with. Like I would love to play with the Acquisitions Inc. group. I think that would be fun. Because I kind of like the lightheartedness of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Now at times I don't like goofy games. Like
that is.
So I got to be in the mood for it, because it can quickly get to a point where it's like, this is just too silly for me. And in fact, most of the time I do like more serious games. So
yeah, I've come to the realization that like my go-to kind of tone is like a lighthearted game, but with a lot of serious moments.
Yes. Yep.